One of the questions I get asked the most often as a Dokkan Battle streamer is, should I pull on this banner? What's in it for me? I'm going to answer a couple of those questions if possible. So we'll go ahead and we'll jump right in here. This is Physical Cooler, Final Form. We've been waiting for him for quite some time. He's a little bit late to the party, but he's here nonetheless. And now we get to maybe pull him if we're lucky. So we'll go ahead and we'll just jump right into the meat and potatoes here. Most of the SSRs are kind of chilling out here. You can get a little glimpse of them. For the most part, Cooler takes up all the spotlight there. So the one we're going to start off with is obviously the the card that everybody's aiming for, the big jackpot card, and that is Physical Final Form Cooler here. He's like most Neogods that have come out already and will be coming out, and that he gives extreme physical type cards +2 key and 100% HP attack and defense. And when you Dokkan him, that becomes 120% and +3 key. If you're gonna make him your leader, you might as well build team around him. And mono extreme physical is actually pretty powerful, surprisingly powerful. Especially because there's a lot of units now on mono physical extreme that do double attacks. And a lot of them have guaranteed supers, or basically any optimal card for this team is going to do quite a bit of damage. Not to mention, physical cards can get pretty tanky, especially with some of their link skills. But yeah, so as I said, +3 key for extreme physical types, HP attack and defense plus 120%. Of course, that's when he Dokkans. His passive skill before Dokkaning, as you can see, it is a if you could stop scrolling, please. Thank you. Okay, attack and defense plus 80%. That is definitely handy. Launches an additional attack, which has a rare chance to become a super attack. I believe the chance upgrades when he Dokkans, so that's always nice. Death Chaser greatly lowers defense, which is excellent. Immense damage. That's basically par for the course now for most Neogods these days. But from time to time, they throw immense damage onto cards that, probably don't really need it, but it's a nice little bonus. We'll go ahead and switch over to the SSR display here, so we can get a little look here at Final Form Cooler as he is when he's Dokkan. So as you can see, the +3 key and the 120% HP attack and defense, as we mentioned earlier. So that makes him amazing. Immense damage to the enemy, greatly lowers defense. Nothing really changes here from his previous incarnation. He gets a little bit of extra attack and defense, which is great. And then, as we said before, he has a rare chance, but now that he's Dokkan, he has a chance. I'm not 100% sure what the odds are for that to happen, but if I were to hazard a guess, I'd say it's probably about around anywhere between 30 and 40% chance. Because I believe high chance probabilities are 50%, so it's probably about around there. Now let's go ahead and have a look at his lane skills when he's Dokkan, because let's be honest, most of us will be looking at his Dokkan form a lot more than his undokkan form. So strongest clan in space, thirst for conquest, big bad bosses. These are links that are going to be shared with Frieza family units for the most part. Full power Frieza. Metal Cooler, I suppose, if you really into Metal Cooler. Shocking Speed. Personally, I prefer my cards to have either Prepare for Battle or Over in a Flash, but Shocking Speed we'll see a little bit of use. Definitely not a bad link skill to have, regardless. Universe's Most Malevolent and Metamorphosis. Any transforming cards usually have Metamorphosis. And then Fierce Battle is pretty common on cards like these. Definitely par for the course. You can get a little look at his HP attack and defense when he's maxed out. It's nothing to sneeze at. It is quite good. And definitely he needs all the extra attack that he can get to take advantage of his when he launches an additional attack, which I believe is guaranteed now that he's Dokkan. Yeah, actually can't really remember if it was there was just a chance. Yeah, I guess it was a guaranteed chance when he's on Dokkan too. I'm looking at it now. But yeah, that is Physical Cooler. Spectacular card, immense damage, greatly lowers defense, nothing to sneeze at statistically. Link skills are solid. His passive skill when he's Dokkan is friggin' amazing. He is a great card. If you pull this card, usually you want to use him for mono physical extreme, but if you use him for, say, a mono extreme team, like a mono rainbow extreme team, he'll fit in great. He'll do quite a bit of damage, and he will pull his weight quite a bit on any mono extreme team. So enough about Cooler. You know, he's had his spotlight now. We'll move on to the other cards here. Fusion Zamasu. He might actually see him referred to as Merge Zamasu. Honestly, one of my favorite extreme cards in the game, just simply because he hits like a truck. You can actually farm his super attack up to super attack 10. It's not particularly difficult. He gets attack plus 100%, and his passive skill increases it to 120%. And obviously, you don't want to use him on super type teams or with super type units. So he's mostly mono tech extreme and mono extreme is where you're going to be putting this card. But still a spectacular card. Immense damage and lowers defense. It's not greatly lowers defense, but when he Dokkans, he does get greatly lowers defense, which is spectacular. A lot of people like to use this card as a leader for a mono extreme team, and I don't really begrudge them that, because even though you're missing 2 key, that's not a huge problem. Especially if you have like Goku Black, for example, the physical Goku Black, because he will definitely help make your team a little more key heavy, and you can link him pretty well with Fusion Zamasu as well. Immense damage, greatly lowers defense, great. Definitely nothing to complain about there. Attack plus 120%. This is the aspect of the card that makes him hit like a truck. At super attack 10, he does absolutely ridiculous damage, and that's why he's probably going to wind up being my white whale for a long time. Like, I feel like I'm never going to pull this card. It's unfortunate, but I really want him for my mono extreme team. It's probably never going to happen. You'll notice that he has like a little bit of a debuff on his passive here. Attack negative 10% for super type allies. Not a huge deal. Like for most cards, you're losing like most super cards. You're losing like maybe like 900 in attack, but still, I mean, it's basically encouraging you to only really use this card in very specific teams. Like I said, mono extreme, mono tech extreme. Those are the cards that you're going to be. Those are the cards you're going to be using with Fusion Zamasu. Let's look at his links here. Fierce Battle, that's pretty normal. Dismal Future, that's not really something that you're going to see too often, but that's another link that he shares with Rose or Physical Goku Black. I mean, he shares them with a bunch of Trunks cards and stuff too, but let's be honest, that's not a huge deal. Big Bad Bosses, very common link for this card, for sure. It's a very common link now because they give them to pretty much every villain these days now. Fuse Fighter, it was like what, plus 2 key. You're probably not really gonna be using him in like a fusion team. So this link skill is expected, but not really going to be a huge deal for you. At least probably not for a long time. Fear and Faith, Godly Power, and Nightmare. Fear and Faith is a little more common of a link skill. Godly Power and Nightmare, not so much. So for the most part, it's these link skills that you're going to be dealing with. And that's why linking him up with Rose and Physical Goku Black are great, because, you know, then at least he'll get Dismal Future, Fear and Faith, which are nice. Nice little bonuses here. So, Fusion Zamasu, spectacular card. Should you pull on this banner just to get him? Not really. The grind to get him to super attack 10 can be very grindy. You'll probably wind up doing the mission more than you care to do to try to get the freebie card to feed into this card to maybe get Dokkan to maybe get a super attack boost. So it's pulling this card is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because he hits like a truck, but it's a curse because it's a lot of work to get him to that point. So still a strong card, fits in great where he fits in. So we'll move on here. Physical Goku Black, we were talking about him earlier. No surprise that he's on this banner because he's one of the best physical extreme cards in the game. One of the best physical cards in the game. Unlike Fuse Zamasu, or Merge Zamasu, whatever you want to call him, his grind to get Super Attack 10, because he does have a freebie on his Dokkan Fest event that you could feed into him for Super Attack boosts, so you should always do that instead of using Elder Guys. His grind is not that bad. From my personal experience, I only had to feed in about 12 Goku Blacks to get him to Super Attack 10. And I've talked to a lot of people who are like, about 20, 15. So the drop rates are good on the event. Obviously, your experience may vary depending on RNG. But the fact that he can get to Super Attack 10 with no Elder Kais required, and it's done fairly easily, makes him more of a blessing than a curse. His leader skill, not really that big a deal. Physical type HP, attack and defense is plus 70%. It's you're not really going to be using this guy as a leader, especially if you have Legendary Super Saiyan Brawly, the physical one, not the other actually good one. But you know, he has it. It's there. It gets a little bit better when he Dokkan awakens, but you're probably not going to be using him as a leader for any kind of team, really. Except maybe physical, I suppose. But yes, moving on. Extreme type key plus 2, that becomes plus 3 when he Dokkans. 2500 attack for every key sphere that he obtains. That's every key sphere. It doesn't matter if it's physical or strength or agility or rainbow. It gives him 2500, and I believe it's 3000 when he Dokkans. Yes, 3000 when he Dokkans. Black Kamehameha causes immense damage to the enemy. When you get him to Super Attack 10, I believe even when he's undokkan, it becomes Black Power Ball, which is kind of silly. Like, you think that it would be Black Power Ball before, like from like 1 to 9, and then have Black Kamehameha for Super Attack 10, but I mean, it is what it is. So we'll switch over to the SSR display, enhance, look a little closer at Goku Black when he Dokkans here. So like as I said before, he starts off with Black Kamehameha from Super Attack 1 through 9. You get him to level 10, which is not difficult again. Definitely needs to grind. And he gets Black Power Ball. The only thing that really changes in this case is that, I mean, he still deals immense damage regardless, but he also lowers attack and defense, which is a nice little debuff, actually. If I'm not mistaken, there's actually a lot of villains cards that don't decrease attack, at least that are any good. So having him be able to debuff attack from his super means that it increases your survivability a teeny tiny little bit. It's not going to be a huge difference, but it is definitely nothing to sneeze at. Look at his passive skill again. Extreme type key plus 3 makes him an amazing key battery. So for mono physical extreme, he's an optimal card. For mono extreme, he's an optimal card. You need to have this card to run either of those teams. I mean, you don't need him, but at the same time, he's extremely good to have. Like, I cannot stress that enough. Attack plus 3000 for every key sphere obtained. You kind of need orb changers to get really the most out of this, but I mean, if you collect maybe like 10, 15 orbs with him, he hits like a truck. Like, I've gotten over 100,000 attack on him with just a handful of orbs, so it gets pretty crazy. Excuse me. So, looking at the link skills here, Fear and Faith, pretty normal for cards like Goku Black. Kamehameha, which is super interesting of a link skill to have, considering that most people are going to have him at Super Attack 10. So it's like, what's the point in having the Kamehameha link when he has Black Power Ball as his super attack? It's a real head scratcher. I feel like it would have been better to give him something different instead, but you know, it's there. There's nothing you can do about it. Big Bad Bosses. Big Bad Bosses, Dismal Future, Nightmare, Fierce Battle. So again, you'll notice that he shares a lot of link skills with Fuse Zamasu, with Rose. So those are the cards that you're going to be linking together the most in a mono extreme team. So that's why they do so well as cards. It's easy to launch supers with them. It's easy to increase their attack considerably. So even now, I mean, this card is fairly old, but even now, this card is still amazing. Still definitely worth pulling. Stats are about average on the max. That's pretty par for the course for cards like this. So we'll go ahead and move on. That's Physical Goku Black. He's been around for a while, so you probably already know a little bit about him. There's not really much to say beyond that. Legendary Super Saiyan Brawly. I mean, this is another card that's been around for quite some time. We'll just go ahead and talk a little bit about him, just in case you don't really know about this card. Like, let's say you're new to the game and you're just starting out, and you're like, okay, who's this card? Is he any good? Blah, blah, blah. He's good. A lot of people like to dump all over this card, but he's really not that bad. It's Super Attack 10 with most of his with even just the normal sphere grid. God, am I thinking Final Fantasy X? With most of his hidden potential grid filled out, he'll usually do about around 250,000 per attack, and he'll and yeah, usually a little bit more if he crits. But him pulling out about 400,000, 500,000 damage consistently is nothing to sneeze at. People look at the individual attacks and they're like, that's not that great. But he's not the best he's not the best physical card in the game anymore, but he'll still pull his weight. Not to mention, you only need to get 10 ki for him to launch a super attack. So even if you fail to get 12 ki, he'll still launch a super attack. And he gets even better when he Dokkan awakens, because the attack plus 7,000 is not that big a deal. If it was like a percentage-based attack, this card would be way better. Unfortunately, it just is how it is, and it's never going to change. But he launches an additional super attack when ki is 8 or more. So it's really easy to launch super attacks with this character. Get at least one super attack. And then at 12 ki, he launches 2 super attacks. Supreme damage to the enemy. It's unfortunate that he doesn't have immense, but, you know, c'est la vie. And he's the old physical, the monophysical god. So if you pull him and you get him Dokkan, he's actually not too bad. There's a lot of really strong physical cards that definitely will pull their weight in a monophysical team with Brawly as the lead there. Hardened Grudge, I almost never see this link on cards. It's really a strange link to have on them. Saiyan Warrior Race, Super Saiyan, these are pretty common Saiyan links to have on a card like this. Saiyan Lineage, Berserker, another link you're not really going to be using too much. Prepare for Battle and Fierce Battle are going to be so it's mostly these links that you're going to find activated on this card the most often. Hardened Grudge you'll very rarely see that. I don't think it's really on any units that you might use optimally on a team with him as leader. Still has good stats. With the hit potential filled out, he's really solid. So yeah, people dump all over this poor card, but he's really not that bad. He's still in he's still in like the top 10 physical cards in the game. So if you pull this card, and you don't have him before, I mean, at least he looks good. I mean, you're probably not gonna kick anybody out of like even a suboptimal unit from a mono extreme to put him in there, but he still can pull his weight. And for newbie players and for mid game players, this card is definitely a boon to have. It's definitely a blessing to have, even if you won't use him for forever. So moving on. Full Power Frieza. This is the card that you're going to want to have as far as having an optimal mono physical extreme team goes, because this is the card that you're going to be linking the most with Final Form Cooler, physical Final Form Cooler. As you can see, he's the old demigod. Physical type key +2. Attack plus 2500. You're not going to be using him as a leader, let's face it. Especially if you pull like Brawly or Cooler. You will not be using this card as a leader for sure. One of the things worth noting is that if you're around for the 2nd anniversary and you got the 2 stones, the one that we got for free and then the other one that we got for the World Tournament, for grinding in the World Tournament, this was a card that you could get 2 of. And honestly, he was probably the best card on there. And if you were planning on pulling on Cooler, having a at least one Full Power Frieza and a dupe path open is spectacular. He still has immense damage to enemies on his super attack, even when he Dokkans. So as you can tell by his passive skill, he hits like a truck. When he Dokkans, it becomes 120% instead of 100%. So he shares a little bit with Fuse Zamasu. You'll see quite a few similarities actually between this guy and Fuse Zamasu. 120%. Again, that's crazy. He'll with immense damage modifier. He does some pretty impressive damage. Link skill prodigies, not something you'll see a lot of. Universe's most malevolent. Nightmare, strongest clan in space, big bad bosses. Again, these are all mostly links that he shares with Final Form Cooler. Again, as I said, I would prefer over in a flash to shocking speed, so that's something that unfortunately the 2 don't share. But they do share first battle, so that's a little bit extra attack. His stats are a little under par because this is a very old card. This card came out just after Strength Gogeta did, so you can imagine just how old this freaking card is. So yeah, he's still, even though he's old and his stats are kind of, he still has good link skills with Final Form Cooler. Still has immense damage modifier. Still does a ton of damage. He gets even better when you link him with full power, not full power, Final Form Cooler. Man, I'm spacing out here a little bit. So it's another great card to pull if you get him, especially if you already have, say, Cooler. Like if you pull him in a multi with Cooler and you didn't have him before, then you're all set. You have a optimal mono physical extreme card. So that's all we need to say about this card. So now we're kind of getting into some really weird territory here with this particular banner. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, and it was like, yeah, we should have a villains banner, but let's go ahead and throw Gohan and Icarus in there. It's a really weird choice, but I mean, I guess they were just trying to go with like the theme of the the first Cooler movie. Now all we need is Metal Cooler Army with a Metal Cooler event. Like a real one with a real banner. So, oop, I got a little bit of ice there. I'm sorry. Anyway, one of the things that you'll see looking at this card is his passive skill. It says it's 100. Well, actually, let's go ahead and just put it on the SSR display. This is probably better. Talking for too long. You'll notice that his passive shares, it'll seem very familiar to you. Who does he share this passive with? Mostly AGL Whis is probably going to be the card that you're going to recognize that particular one from. So, I mean, he's Agility Whis, but he's a little bit better. I think Agility Whis does have Supreme Damage Modifier. I have to double check, but I'm pretty sure he does. Rare chance to stun the enemy, that's like around like 20%. Nothing to really sneeze at. Any chance to stun the enemy is a good chance, in my opinion. It says that when his HP is 30% or below, he gets attack plus 200%. I mean, that sounds like a lot, but his stats are pretty blah. Especially his attack, so that's not a whole lot. It makes him hit kind of hard for one turn, and then he goes back to being mediocre. So really the only reason why you would ever use this card is because A, you don't have a monotech or a monophysical type leader, and you need one. Because he gets HP, attack, and defense plus 30% for those cards. Or you're too lazy to grind Agility Whis for the passive. Another thing I want to point out is his fucking passive skill, Interspecies Friendship. That's it's interesting. It reminds me a little bit of Clerks too. But yeah, I mean it's barely even worth looking at this card as far as league skills go. Berserker, Demon. Why Demon? I don't get it. Is it because of Icarus? Like he looks like a dragon, not a demon. It's so strange. Saiyan Lineage, the Innocence, Gaze of Respect, Shocking Speed. It's like they kind of like. It's like they put up a bunch of link skills and tossed darts at them to see what they were gonna put on this card. It is such a head scratcher for me. I really don't understand it. I really don't know why they didn't give this card to Dokkan. Like they really should have. But unfortunately, they did not. So you definitely don't really need to be pulling for this card because he's not a Dokkan Fest exclusive. He'll be on every banner from this point onward. He's in the SSR pool from this point onward. So the odds are you might pull this at some point in your career on Dokkan Battle. So I mean, ultimately, he's a underwhelming card. Unfortunately. And what banner would be complete? What cooler banner would be complete without another cooler? The Tech Cooler is a bit of an older card, if I'm not mistaken. He's been around for a little while, and he gets a Dokkan Awakening in this event. You can definitely tell that he's an older card because his leader skill is god-awful. His stats are god-awful. His passive skill is god-awful. The fact that he has supreme damage on a card that's as old as this card is a fucking miracle, just to say the least. You're definitely not going to be pulling on this banner to try to get this card. But because he Dokkan Awakens, now he's actually not too bad. He gains a rare chance to stun the enemy. He gets Ki plus 2 and HP, attack, and defense plus 30% for agility, tech, and physical cards. So it makes him actually a pretty decent leader if you're lacking a mono lead, especially a mono tech lead, because he will not. Well, I don't know what I was going with there, but yeah, you can use him as a leader for those particular types if you're desperate. So I don't really see new players or like Dokkan Awakening this card, but the Dokkan Awakening is there, and you can try to get it if you're inclined. The passive skill, attack plus 90%, is definitely a lot better from the original, which was like 40%. Yeah, definitely way better. Strongest clan in space, thirst for conquest, big bad bosses, brutal beatdown, metamorphosis, universe's most malevolent, and fierce battle. These are pretty common links for characters like Cooler. So he's par for the course. One thing you'll notice that he's missing is one of the common key links. And I think that holds him back a little bit. I think that they could have dropped Universe's most malevolent and given him like prepared for battle at least. But needless to say, he does not have it, and that's unfortunate. But his stats definitely do get better, a little bit under par here. But what do you expect from a card this old? So, if you need a solid unit for like mono extreme tech, or even just for like old school tech with god tanks, he's really not too bad. He won't be linking too much with cards within that wheelhouse on super team, or not super teams, but just like the normal mono tech. But he does have fierce battle, so if you have a lot of units on monotech Dokkan, at least I'll share that with them. But other than that, you're gonna be struggling to find a partner for this card, and he's. Let's be honest with each other here a little bit. Even with his new Dokkan Awakening, he's still really underwhelming. So definitely, again, a decent card, but definitely not anything that you're gonna be pulling on the banner to get. And a little bit of a curse, because if you pull this card instead of, say, Physical Cooler or Merged Zamasu, you're probably going to be crying, because he's not that good. It's really unfortunate. And now for the infamous Banner SR. So this is a card you're probably going to be pulling a little bit of if you're planning to do pulls, do a lot of multis on this banner. Look at his stats. It's about par for the course for an SR. They're awful. All types key +1, agility and tech key +1, huge damage to enemy. If this card had come out like in the first handful of months of this game, he'd have been a great card. But he didn't, and he was awful even when he was released. But he gets a Dokkan Awakening. Yay! So all types key +2. Attack and defense +20%. If you're one of those people who saved up all of his Thousers after if you're like an endgame player and you've been getting their super attack up just because, just in case they decide to Dokkan Awaken him, well, that pays off a little bit here. He gets supreme damage to the enemy, which is great. Excuse me. So he gets supreme damage to the enemy, which is great. It brings him at least up to par with other SSRs. He becomes a little bit of a key battery. Agility and tech type key +2, attack and defense +20%. He's not going to be turning any heads or stopping any traffic or anything, but ultimately Thouser is not too bad, not too bad at all. These links, unfortunately, make him sort of not that great. Kura's Armored Squad, Kura's Underling. Obviously, these are links that he does not share with Cooler. So, you're not going to be running him with Cooler, for sure, on a mono villains team. Loyalty, Cold Judgment, Formidable Enemy. These are links that you almost never see on cards. So, it's not surprising that these sort of links really drag him down. He does have shocking speed at least, so if you decide to run him with Physical Cooler for whatever reason, like on a mono extreme team, at least he'll link with him and give him an extra 2 key. But besides that, it's very obvious that this card was not built with Physical Cooler in mind, which is unfortunate, but what can you do? What can you do, man? And then another mark against this poor card is that for an SSR, his base stats are god awful. Like, we're talking way under par here on everything except for defense. His defense is really high, but his HP and attack is really low. So, it is what it is. I mean, at least he's self-sufficient in terms of his passive, but the Dokkan Awakening is there. It's for novelty. It's not really worth bothering with, to be completely honest with you. If you're one of those people who likes to collect cards, then he'll sit pretty in your box for quite some time. So finally, to wrap things up, overall this banner is not that great. In terms of most of the cards that are on here, Cooler Final Form, Jackpot card, Fuse Zamasu, great card, Goku Black, great card, Brawly, and now we're going downhill. Full power freezes. Well, he's at least I'd consider him a little bit better than Brawly, but it's still kind of in that meh wheelhouse, so to speak. The Kid Gohan with Icarus, it's like, why? At least you can like get his super attack to 10, but like why even put the effort in? It's so silly. The Tech Cooler is meh. The Thouser is meh. Even as an SR, he's meh. And then you like Dokkan Awaken him, and then he's like a little less. So a little less of a disappointment. For starting players, like newbie players, should you pull on this banner? Frankly, no. There's a lot of cards on this banner that have useful leader skills. More specifically, Cooler and actually more specifically Fuzamasu, because at least he has a broader. At least his is a little bit broader than Cooler's is. But you have to Dokkan Awaken Fuzamasu in order to get the most out of him. So, and his leader skill. So that's a little difficult for beginning players and very unlikely. So I would say for newer players, definitely pass on this banner. Save your stones for if you really need to pull to get cards with leader skill. We should be getting the Masked Saiyan / an Angel Super Saiyan 3 Goku fairly soon. I'd say probably within like a month, maybe. So if you need a leader for your team, Masked Saiyan is a great rainbow leader, especially when you Dokkan him. So newer players, I say pass. Pull at your own discretion. Mid-game players, you're probably going to have more cards that will work well on a mono extreme physical team with the physical cooler. But I mean, it's hard to justify pulling on this banner because the banner cards towards the end of the banner are pretty underwhelming. And if you're a mid-game player, you probably have most of the cards on here because Brawly shows up in like Brawly and Goku Black seem to show up in every banner. Fuzamasu has shown up in several banners up until this point. So I mean, unless you're really desperate for dupes and you really want this physical cooler, I'd say pass. End game players, you're probably like me, you have an optimal physical extreme team that you can run with physical cooler. If you do, I say throw maybe 50, 100 stones at it, and if you get them, great. If you don't, call it a day. Because there's just much better cards on future banners, and there's much better. This banner is just a little underwhelming. Delving into the details of this banner, they're just really underwhelming. So, I'd say overall, this banner is probably just one to skip. Unless you're in a really good position where you really want to run a mono physical extreme team, then I'd say, yeah, go for it. But if you don't, then I would say give this one a pass. It almost kind of feels a little bit like a trap banner, because this banner is just not that great, especially in comparison to more recent banners, like Physical Mega Shenron, for example. But yeah, that's the consensus. Thanks for sticking around, guys. It's been almost like 40 minutes. Holy crap, I talked way too long. Sorry about that. But yeah, we're streaming almost every day. You guys should come out and watch if possible. Come see us on Twitter. Join us on Minds if you're on that. I'll give a link to the Facebook group as well below. So we're basically everywhere. You can pick and choose your favorite social media entity that you prefer. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. See you on stream, hopefully in future videos. Take it easy.